The half square triangle, probably the most common unit that we quilters use in our quilt blocks. But there's a cousin to the half square triangle. I would call it the half rectangle triangle. And in this video, we're going to talk about how to make a half rectangle triangle. Stick with me. Welcome to Terry Faust Quilts, and I'm Terry. Today, we're going to talk about the quilt behind me. This is a design that I made myself. It is a pattern that I designed called the HRT Garden. HRT stands for half rectangle triangle, just like one of these guys. And you can see a block here. This is the block that's constructed in this quilt, and it has half rectangle triangles, and 4 of them in each block. And the way that I designed this pattern was using one of these 2 rollers from Creative Grids. This is the perfect rectangle, and it will make up to a 9-inch half rectangle. And this one is called 2 Peaks in 1. And it looks kind of weird. For this particular pattern, we only use the top half here, which is the same as the perfect rectangle. It's just a little shorter. So you can see that here. That is the Creative Grids ruler. Either one of these would work and is required to make this pattern. I'm going to show you how to make these units, and we'll make a block together.
Hi, I want to interrupt for just a moment and say I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. I feel like I'm getting a little bit better as time goes on at making the videos, but this particular one has a couple of mishaps. The first one is that my microphone died at some point in the middle of filming. So I have a new one here, which is working great. So that'll be fixed for the future. The other thing is I was trying a different camera angle, and you're going to see a lot of the top of my head in this video, and I really apologize for that. So thanks for watching, and we'll get back to quilting now. Thanks for your understanding. The first thing I'd like to just point out about a typical half square triangle is that obviously all of the sides of a square are the same length. And if I want the dark side of the triangle to be in this direction, and then I want to alternate, maybe the next one is supposed to be the other direction, I can make all of my half square triangles the same way, and I can turn them, and this dark corner can be wherever I want it to be. I just have to turn the square to adjust the placement of the colors. Compare that to a half rectangle triangle, and let's say I want this dark side on the left, or excuse me, on the right. I would, with the half square triangle, just turn it a quarter of a turn. With this one, I turn it a quarter of a turn, and suddenly that's not the direction I want. That turns the rectangle horizontally. If I make it go vertically, then my dark fabric is in the wrong corner. I want it to be down here. So this is important to know, because with half rectangle triangles, it's important to pay close attention to the pattern that you're making, because you need to make mirror images. Some patterns will require all of them to go in the same direction. Some patterns require a left and a right. which clearly, as I showed, you don't need to worry about that with a half square triangle. So cutting is very important to pay attention to the direction of the pattern. We're going to talk about that today as we cut our pieces for the block we're going to be making today. For the particular pattern that we're making today, the half rectangle garden, this is my own pattern, which can be found on my website, and you can print it out, purchase it, and print it as a PDF pattern. And it does state that required is one of the two rulers that I'm going to be showing you today. You can use the folded corner clipper. That's optional. My patterns will show you how to cut your fabrics. This particular pattern can be made using 10-inch squares if you have a layer cake. It can also be made with fat eighths. And I do give nice detailed pictures of cutting the fabrics. So you can follow along in this video, and you'll also have nice instructions if you purchase the pattern. But we need, for a block, we need 4 half rectangle triangles, 2 lefts and 2 rights. So in order to do that, to get the mirror image pieces that you need, it's important in this pattern to keep your fabrics folded in half. Each time you make a cut doing this, you will get a left and a right. So I'm going to demonstrate this using the 2 peaks in one, and this will make a finished 6-inch half rectangle triangle. So I have my fabric lined up straight here, and you can follow the baseline is the size that's needed for my pattern, and I'm going to cut. It's very important to cut off these little triangles at the bottom and also this tiny top. It looks very small. You can see it's just a tiny little bit you're trimming off, but it will make a big difference when you are assembling your pieces. So with one cut, we made a left and a right. So we need to do one more cut to make a block with the print fabric. So what we do, we had the ruler this way. Now we're going to rotate it and line it up again. This is right to the edge of my fabric. This is up to the top. And the 6-inch line is this base line. And I'm going to now cut on this side, and I'm going to cut off this tiny little corner and also the corner the other end. Okay, so I just made 2 more. So we have 2 lefts and 2 rights. I also need to cut the same with the background fabric. Now, if you're using batiks, which don't typically have a right side and a wrong side, or if you're using a solid like this, which doesn't have a right side and a wrong side, it's not, critical to fold your fabric in half. But I'm going to do it again this way just to demonstrate again. It's folded in half. This time we're going to use the perfect rectangle to show you this one. So these are lined up pretty nice and straight. This is a 6.5-inch strip. So I'm going to line the bottom up on the 6.5-inch line on the roller. And do a cut here. Slide that away. I'm going to trim this very top little angle again. Then for the bottom on this ruler, I slide the ruler up, line it up with the fabric again, and I'm going to trim this corner. Okay, so now I have a left and a right, and I'm going to turn the ruler again, keeping with the same fabric strip. Line it up with the fabric. Do another cut. Okay, I'm going to cut this little tiny corner. I'm going to slide the ruler down again. Slide a little closer to me. And trim this off as well. Okay. So I have 2 lefts and 2 rights. Again, this is just solid fabric, so it doesn't matter quite so much. And let's see, we have these 2 lefts and we have these 2 rights. So what we would do is turn one. These are going to go together like that. These are going to go together like this. Okay, and so I'm going to put them right sides together and sew along this long diagonal. Let me show you. I think it's important to note when we're sewing a half square triangle together, if I hadn't sewn this yet, we would line these pieces up, and they would be lined up here, and this side would be lined up together. When you're working with the half rectangle triangles, they do not look like that when you're sewing them together. So I suggest, if you're new at working with this unit, to lay them beside each other how they are supposed to look, and then take one and flip it. You can see how trimming these corners is really important. All of these pieces line up perfectly, and so you would sew here the whole way down to right here. There's no guessing at how much. There's no fabric sticking out. There's no little triangles at the end sticking out. These are trimmed perfectly so they fit together, and you can see how they look when they're lined up ready to sew. We don't have a nice neat triangle unit like we would have with a half square triangle. It kind of looks a little funny, a little jagged, and that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. So I'm going to take my units to my sewing machine. I'm going to sew each one just like this. If we were doing a right-sided unit, I will lay them together like this. It doesn't matter which one's on top or which one's on the bottom. And I would match that end up, match that end up. You can see it looks weird. It doesn't look like we're used to. I'm going to sew from that point, 1/4 of an inch down to that point, and then I will open them up. I'll press them open, and I'll be right back with all 4 of these units and show you how the block goes together. I'm back with my pieces sewn together for the half rectangle triangles, and I have 2 lefts and 2 rights, and the instructions for this pattern are to press it toward the background. So each one of these is pressed toward the background, and the way we lay these pieces out for the block is like this. Okay, we need a piece for the center. So now it's kind of pieced like a 9 patch. All right. So you can see how that's supposed to go together. That's what the block looks like. And there's one other step that you can choose to do it either before you sew the block together, or you could sew all the blocks together and then do this step last to each block. But I'm going to do it now before I assemble the whole block. So I'm going to take the HRTs away again, and what we need to do in order to create this secondary design that happens when our blocks are put together with a sashing is we have to do the folded corner on all four, or snowball the corners, if that's a term you like to use. So we're going to do this step next and then put the whole block together. One option you can do is to take the squares needed for this step, and you can draw the diagonal line and take this to your machine and sew on the line, and then trim this excess off, and you would press it back then. My hands aren't doing a very good job there. You would press it back so that the unit will look like this, okay? So that is one option you can do. I am going to use the folded corner clipper. I love using the folded corner clipper for projects like this. So I'm going to take a square and match it up with this corner. And I'm going to, because I'm right-handed, and in order to get this going the correct angle for me to cut, I'm going to rotate that rectangle, and I'm going to take the folded corner clipper, line it up on a 2-inch line. This is a 2-inch square, and that corner is right down in the corner of my square. This is lined up with the top. I'm going to trim that off. This is waist, and then I'm going to sew along 1/4 of an inch away like that. So I'm going to do another one, and this one I already have marked. We can show the same demonstration. Line it up, and this is going to be my sewing line where I have the dark line marked. Line up the folded corner clipper and trim. Okay, so those are my right-sided pieces. I'm going to take them to my sewing machine. Here I have my left-sided pieces, and I'm going to turn the block vertically, right sides together, line up, square, trim, okay, I'm going to take these into my sewing machine and get these units ready to be pieced together. Okay, I'm back with those folded corners added to each rectangle. Now let's lay this out one more time. Okay, isn't that pretty? Now, the next step would be, I would sew the rows together, 3 rows, and then I would sew the 3 rows to each other. You could also do them in columns this way, if that's the way you prefer to do it. So you just put this together like a 9 patch, and it's very simple, and it's just a very different looking block, different than all of our traditional quilt blocks. So I'm going to go and piece this together now. I finished my block. There is my HRT flower block ready to fit into a half rectangle garden quilt. You can see that's how the block fits into the quilt, just like that. This particular quilt is 6 blocks, 6 across, and there are 4 rows going down, and you can't see the bottom row in the picture right now, but that's made with 24 blocks, and you can see where these folded corners come together with the sashing and make this nice secondary little flower in your garden as well, and it's extended to the top and the bottom borders as well. So this block just really reminded me of a flower garden with all of the plants lined up in a pretty row, and so that's why I called it the HRT Garden. If you would like to make this pattern for yourself, head on over to my website, terryfaustquilts.com, and you can download the PDF version. It's very easy for you to get. If you get the PDF, it comes out printed. It will print on a nice full-size page for you, as I mentioned before, with photographs and diagrams on piecing. So nice, full-size, easy-to-read sheets. And also, as an option with this quilt is a table runner, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, please share with your quilting friends, and I hope you've been inspired. I have just a few more things to show you quickly before the end of the video to hopefully inspire you even further. Behind me is the second quilt that I made while I was designing this pattern. I wanted to try it with a green background with some other pretty fabrics that I had, and I love the way that it turned out also. It was just a very different look to not have white as the background, but I was very pleased with it. There are no weeds in this garden, so that's really great. This time of year we're outside starting to work in our gardens, and you can make a quilted garden. It's very low maintenance after you finish that. So that's the second pattern that I made, quilt that I made with this pattern. Also with this pattern is a table runner option. So you could do a smaller version for your table. One more project I'd like to show you that I made with half rectangle triangles is a pillow for my couch upstairs, and very simple. I just made the half rectangle triangles, and you could see that they're all left-sided. Every single one is the same direction, and just sew them together in rows. So you don't even need any kind of pattern. You can just make half rectangle triangles units and sew them together. You could make large ones for a big quilt, or make small ones for another smaller project. So it's very versatile. Thank you for joining me today while we were using the 2 Peaks in 1 ruler by Creative Grids. There's a lot of other things that you can do with this ruler that I'll love to show you in the future. You can do a lot of fun stuff with this one. And the perfect rectangle ruler from Creative Grids as well. So thanks again for joining me. I hope you were inspired. Please come back for the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.